Hi. Welcome to Lily's Story channel. If you like my channel, please like and subscribe. Now the story begins. On our 5th wedding anniversary, I took the day off to prepare a big meal at home. However, I received a reply from my husband that shattered my enthusiasm. There's something urgent at work tonight, I have to work overtime, you rest early. At the moment I read that message, all my enthusiasm was crushed to ashes. Relentlessly, I asked him, can you come back earlier? Have you forgotten what day it is today? Today is the 5th anniversary of my marriage to my husband, Darnell Golden. Specifically took a day off to prepare a special meal for him at home. Standing in front of the mirror, I repeatedly adjusted my makeup and hairstyle, striving for perfection. In the bedside drawer, I had placed the lingerie I had bought earlier, and I even prepared wine and flowers for a pleasant evening. I met my husband Darnell during our university days, and a few friends started a small company while I pursued a career as a novelist. Normally, I wouldn't bother with such attempts to please him, but his cold attitude over the past 6 months had sparked a strong sense of crisis within me. Just then, I received a message on my phone. There's something urgent at work tonight, I have to work overtime, you rest early. The moment I read that message, all my enthusiasm was crushed to ashes. Relentlessly, I asked him, can you come back earlier? Have you forgotten what day it is today? My message was met with silence. I waited for half an hour, but unable to wait any longer, I decided to call him. However, there was no answer. During the early days of the company, Darnell had to work hard to come up with plans and seek collaborations, often returning home drunk. I understood the hardships of his work, so I always prepared a bowl of sobering soup for him when he returned. I had played the role of a docile and obedient wife for 5 years, but I couldn't accept being stood up on our wedding anniversary. After all, we had agreed a week ago that he would come back to celebrate with me. Casually changed into a jacket and took a taxi to Darnell's company. His car was not parked downstairs, so I called him again, but still no one answered. Don't know when it happened, but we went from being a loving newlywed couple to this strange state where he could disappear whenever he wanted. Every time, he would use his overtime and exhaustion as an excuse, asking me to be understanding. Suppressing my chaotic thoughts, I returned home with a sense of disappointment. It wasn't until midnight that Darnell returned, stumbling in with a drunken body, and the sound of the door opening woke me up. The carefully arranged dishes on the table had long gone cold, and the bottle of sobering soup was ready, but there was no one to drink the wine. Darnell's first reaction upon seeing me was a frown. Didn't I tell you? I had something urgent at work today, and I asked you to rest early. Why are you still up so late? I just took a short nap on the sofa. I asked, something urgent happening at the company, is it very important? I rubbed my eyes and walked over to take his coat, but in the next moment, I froze in place. Even though there was a strong smell of alcohol, I could still faintly detect the scent of rose perfume. Clearly, I didn't own any perfume with that fragrance. I stared at him in confusion, forcefully suppressing the thoughts in my heart. It couldn't be true. I must have misunderstood. Perhaps there was a female client at the dinner who was wearing rose perfume. In my mind, Darnell was always ambitious and responsible. Whenever he was around, it seemed like there was no problem that couldn't be solved. I should trust him unconditionally. With all those years of emotional foundation, how could he possibly betray me? I can't let my imagination run wild just because of some perfume. Though I kept comforting myself like this, the smile on my face couldn't hold up any longer. I raised my head to gaze steadily at his tired face. I called you several times tonight, and you didn't answer. You've never been like this before. My phone was out of battery at that time. Handed it over to the front desk for charging. When I saw your missed calls, I rushed back immediately. Sorry. This won't happen again. Darnell took off his gold-rimmed glasses and said indifferently. Suddenly, the person in front of me seemed somewhat distant, as if he had diverged from the cheerful boy in my memories. It was like he had become a different person, and I couldn't find a trace of the love I once felt for him. I forced a smile and said, I reminded you earlier, do you know what day it is today? Where's my gift? Darnell took out his phone from his pocket and transferred $20,000 to me directly. I've been incredibly busy lately and couldn't focus on these little things. Sent you the money, you can buy a gift you like for yourself. It's not enough, just let me know. Before I could respond, he turned and walked into the bathroom, taking his phone with him, of course. He didn't notice the surprise in my eyes. That moment, it felt like an invisible hand had tightly gripped my heart, pulling me into an abyss of darkness. Darnell had had quite a bit to drink that night. After taking a shower, he fell asleep, and I listened to the even sound of his breathing from the pillow, resisted for a while but ultimately couldn't stop myself from picking up his phone. This was the first time I had proactively checked his phone. The password was no longer our wedding anniversary. It took me several attempts to finally get it right. I went through his chat history, which was all quite normal, mainly with clients and work-related discussions. There was nothing unusual in his contact list, and I was still listed as a priority. Just as I was consoling myself and thinking I had overreacted, and I was about to put the phone back, a sudden thought flashed in my mind. I had read a post in the past about how women could accurately uncover a man's secrets on his phone. The first step was to check the bank statements. I had been spending my salary on myself, and Darnell's income was used to support our household expenses. During this period, my work had been quite busy, and I hadn't had a chance to ask him about the company's recent profits. Directly accessed the bank statement in the app. But in the next moment, all my relief was shattered completely. Because just an hour ago, Darnell's account initiated a transfer of $52,000. This was precisely the time when I couldn't reach him, and he had explained that he left his phone at the front desk for charging. My heart raced, and my hands trembled, making it almost impossible to hold the phone. There was an option on the statement page for instant transfer for internet use. Specifically for this user, I tapped on it. I had never expected Darnell to be so generous. Each of these transfers was for $52,000, and they occurred every month, with one month even having 2 transfers. The recipient was a girl named Sweet Sauce, with a cute anime avatar. I examined their transaction history, which had started 6 months ago. If it were a different sum of money, maybe I could have found a reasonable explanation in my heart. For example, it could have been a client, or it could have been a necessary transfer. But why was the amount for each transaction exactly $52,000? Why did he have to use this glaring number to hurt me? Just a moment ago, I was in excruciating pain, but now I had become incredibly calm. Found Sweet Sauce in his contact list, but there were no chat records. It seemed like they had been deleted. The top row, Add Contact, informed me that they became friends through a QR code scan. Next, I clicked on Sweet Sauce's social media updates, and it revealed an even more suffocating scene. Because just 5 minutes ago, she had posted a series of dynamic pictures. Thank you for celebrating my birthday with me. In the photos, she had a sweet smile, and on the couch behind her was a large bouquet of vibrant red roses. The table next to her were unopened gift boxes, and at the bottom right of the photo was a hand wearing a wristwatch. That hand had well-defined knuckles, long and slender fingers, and it seemed perfect for playing the piano. And that wristwatch instantly confirmed that the man in the photo was Darnell. The watch was one I had personally bought for him as a wedding gift, and he had worn it for all these years. Today was our 5th anniversary, and he could leave me at home, make up a false excuse, and celebrate another girl's birthday. He transferred $20,000 to his legitimate wife and a minimum of $50,000 every month to a woman outside. Honestly, I couldn't understand, and I couldn't fathom it. Darnell knew me too well. He knew that if he used work as an excuse, even if I were dissatisfied, I would endure it. Was it because of my excessive obedience and maturity that he dared to carry on like this behind my back? Because I had never checked his phone, all the traces of his affair remained, except that he had deleted the chat records. I sat in the living room, feeling cold and numb, unable to help but glance at the food on the dining table. In that moment, I suddenly felt like the biggest joke in the world, the biggest fool. The man I slept next to had been playing me, making me spin in circles, and yet here I was, still thinking about ways to win back his love. Everything had a trail, it turned out. When he started being distant with me, he had already found another woman worth his careful attention. My eyes suddenly stung severely, as if countless needles were poking into them non-stop. The pain in my chest felt like a knife cutting through, and I was on the verge of suffocation. Only those who have experienced the pain and despair of being deceived and betrayed by their longtime loved one would understand how excruciating it is. I opened Sweet Sauce's transfer page, and it showed only her last name, which was Walter. I took a deep breath, walked into the bathroom with the phone in hand, and sent her a message. I've had quite a bit to drink and can't sleep. I didn't know how Darnell usually chatted with her, so I could only use this ambiguous tone to test her. She quickly replied, "You can talk to me at this hour, even through a screen." I can sense her surprise. I knew that Darnell was already married and that I existed, so at midnight when it was quiet, the two of them would definitely not be chatting. It was precisely because of this that she asked the question. I continued typing on the keyboard, "She's asleep and I miss you a little. We haven't been apart for long, have we? And don't we see each other every day? I know you miss me, and I miss you too. You'll see me at work tomorrow." My pupils constricted, and I seized on the words "see each other every day and work." This Sweet Sauce was someone from Darnell's company. In the last 2 years, the company had seen significant growth, and the number of employees had increased from the initial 5 to a total of 30. However, Darnell never voluntarily discussed work-related matters with me, and I was considerate enough not to inquire further. The next moment, another message arrived. "Darnell, I've learned to make a new kind of sandwich. Would you like me to bring it for breakfast tomorrow?" I stood there in a daze. Darnell had always had stomach issues since childhood, and as he grew older and became busier with work, late nights, and alcohol had caused him to develop a severe stomach problem. At the worst times, he even needed to get pain relief injections at the hospital. From that point onward, I gave up my life without much involvement in the kitchen and began learning from nutritionists and dietitians, making nourishina soups for his stomach. At first, I often misjudged the saltiness of the soup, adding either too much or too little. It took a whole year of doing this to finally nurse Darnell's stomach back to health and reach a master level of cooking. In the past, I would wake up every day at exactly 6:30 a.m., like clockwork, to prepare stomach-nurturing congee for him. No wonder he hadn't been eating breakfast at home during this time. Had someone else bringing him breakfast? Compared to a slow-cooked 1-hour congee, a sandwich was certainly more appealing, sure. I replied with that one word and then proceeded to delete the chat history between us, went on to browse her social media updates. From her posts, I could glean her interests. She liked cats, had a pet dog, wore cute dresses, disliked waking up early, and every photo showed her smiling brightly. I instinctively gazed at the mirror. In reality, I was not yet 30 years old this year. But due to being in the kitchen all day, constantly surrounded by the fumes of cooking, it had already caused my face to show some signs of aging. There were subtle wrinkles forming at the corners of my eyes. Simply from looking at the photos and updates, it seemed like there was a 10-year age gap between us. If this girl had interned at Darnell's company right after graduating from college, then, according to common sense, the actual age difference between us should be around 5 years. I washed my face vigorously with cold water, placed the phone back in its original spot, and closed my eyes. I desperately wanted to fall asleep, to forget everything, but the more I closed my eyes, the clearer the images in my mind became. I could even envision how Darnell was celebrating her birthday with the same smile he had used to face me. A large bouquet of romantic red roses. It had been such a long time since I'd received one, so long that I'd forgotten the last time. Because I kept thinking about all these things, I tossed and turned until 4 a.m. before I could finally fall asleep. By the time I woke up again, Darnell had already gotten ready for work. I wiped out all the records related to me from his phone. At this moment, he still had no idea that I had discovered his affair. I cried the whole night, and my eyes were swollen and sore. After putting on a light makeup, I casually ordered some chicken soup from a food delivery app. When the meal arrived, I poured it into a thermos. In the past, making soup for him was something I did personally, and I would hand-deliver every carefully slow-cooked bowl to him. It took at least 5 hours. But now, I just wanted to use takeout to simplify things because he no longer deserved those carefully prepared soups. I changed into different clothes, picked up the thermos, and took a taxi to Darnell's company. even though I rarely came to the office, some of the employees recognized me, and they greeted me enthusiastically, calling Milady boss. I nodded and smiled in response, then headed towards the elevator. At that moment, a figure hurriedly approached from behind. "Hello, who are you looking for? Do you have an appointment? This is Mr. Golden's exclusive elevator." I turned to look at her slightly chubby baby face. The moment I entered the company, I had already recognized her from her selfies on her social media. I had considered the possibility of sparks flying when the third wheel met the legitimate wife, but I didn't expect her to be so clumsy in her approach. "Did you not hear them calling me Lady Boss just now? You're new here, aren't you? It's normal if you don't know me. Just remember my face for next time. When I come to my husband's company, I don't need an appointment." Some changes in gaze can only be understood by women. The moment I finished my statement, the sweet smile on her face quickly disappeared. Defiantly, she spoke, "The company has its own rules, and its working hours right now. Moreover, a few important clients just went upstairs. How about waiting downstairs for a while, and I'll call Mr. Golden to confirm if he has time right now, so you don't make a wasted trip. Do you not realize how strange you're being?" I frowned, intentionally raising my tone. "I came to see my husband, and you, a new employee, are trying to obstruct me. We are a legally married couple. I need to check if he has time to see me. I should be the one making that call, not you. I understand that young girls like you who are just starting out in the workforce can be a bit impulsive, but you should always be aware of your place and not get arrogant about things that don't belong to you." Gave her a warning, and it was a veiled threat. If this woman truly had something going on with Darnell, then the employees in the company should have noticed some signs by now. By deliberately raising my voice earlier, I made sure they all heard this conversation. I saw her clench her fists tightly, undoubtedly feeling resentful and aggrieved. I turned around and walked directly into the elevator, ignoring her. Perhaps Darnell had been too good to her, causing her to forget that she was just a mistress involved with a married man. When I knocked on the office door, Darnell was busy working with some documents on his desk. Seeing me, he had a flash of surprise and panic in his eyes. "You've been so busy at work lately, how come you have time to come to the office?" he asked. I placed the thermos on his desk casually. "Forgot to make soup for you these past few days. Today, I found the time to bring you some chicken soup. I wanted to ask you something. Is your company hiring people so casually now?" I ran into a young lady downstairs, and she really infuriated me. When Darnell heard me say this, the indifference on his face started to crack. But he concealed it very quickly, and in the blink of an eye, I even began to doubt if I had seen it correctly. The company recently hired a group of interns. All of them are newcomers to the workforce, a bit clumsy. They'll settle down in the company after some time. I probed Darnell's expression in my mind. I wasn't sure if he understood what I implied in my words, that sweet sauce person. So I didn't plan to let him quickly bypass this matter with a few words. But these employees with such low emotional intelligence and insight are something new. They all know I'm the boss's wife, but only she doesn't know, and she kept blocking me from going upstairs. She even said she'd call you first. Her behavior left me bewildered. I feel like I'm not the wife anymore, but rather a mistress. As I spoke, the expression on Darnell's face became even more panicked. I knew he had guessed. "Why do you look so unwell? Is it your stomach acting up again? Quickly have some soup. I simmered it diligently for hours. You really must drink it." As soon as I finished talking, I was suddenly drawn to a new potted plant on his desk, a green cactus. The potted plant caught my attention not because it was valuable but because the pot was exquisitely made in the shape of a doll. I casually inquired, "When did you start liking these things? A doll-shaped potted plant like this doesn't really fit a CEO's desk, does it? What do clients think about it?" Darnell stared at me, but before he could respond, I had already thrown the cactus precisely into the trash can. I heard the sound of the ceramic pot shattering and felt a secret sense of satisfaction. "Why did you throw it away?" Darnell instantly got agitated, and he jumped up. I turned to look at him. "It was just a cactus, right? Is there a need to be so mad at me? If you like it, I can buy you another one and bring it home later. Isn't that enough?" Darnell was puzzled by my question but became even more furious because of the broken pot. His complexion looked particularly unpleasant. "Oh, by the way, that pot for the cactus seemed quite unique. Where did you buy it? Give me a link, I want to buy a few for our home, they'd look much better there. I nonchalantly steered the conversation back. It had been a long time since I'd seen so many expressions on Darnell's face in such a short time. He felt like he could change his expression every second. Anna, are you deliberately coming here today to pick a fight with me? I'm really busy with work right now and don't have time for these matters. If you have nothing to do, just go home. What do you mean by that? Why can't I understand what you're saying? I just felt that the cactus pot was nice, and it's a shame it got thrown away. Such plants look out of place in your cold-toned office. They'd be much better at home. If Darnell believed my words, then he wouldn't deserve his current position, but I didn't expect him to believe me. I walked around the office, picking a random sofa to sit down on. The weather is nice today, and it feels like it's been a while since we went out together. As soon as I finished speaking, Darnell impatiently interrupted me. Anna, if you have something to discuss, let's talk about it at home. I'm really busy working right now, and there's a pile of documents on my desk waiting for me to sign. I fixed him with a piercing gaze, my eyes sharp as if trying to cut through his disguise. You feel like you've changed so much from before. Sometimes, when you stand in front of me, I can't help but feel confused. Who was the person I used to love? Darnell avoided my gaze and changed the subject. I know you're unhappy with the little time I spend with you, but there's no other way. The company is in a phase of growth right now, and I have to devote all my energy to it. Balancing family and business was always a challenge, but I promise I'll make an effort to spend more time with you in the future. Darnell's tone was impatient. His final words sounded more like a concession. Yes, now he might just be granting me more of his time, splitting it with the other woman. I was about to say something when the office door suddenly knocked, and the woman from earlier walked in the sweet sauce. When I had seen her downstairs, I had already noticed the nameplate hanging from her chest. Her name was Christine Walter. It sounded refined, but she didn't deserve it. Mr. Golden, I'm here to remind you that you have a meeting with Mr. Robinson at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Darnell, already irritable, hurriedly dismissed her, saying, next time, please call me if there's anything that need to come up and inform me. Christine gazed at us with a complex expression, assumed she wanted to know what we had discussed upstairs. I always found it strange in this world, while being a mistress was generally condemned, so many people flocked to it, but why did they feel the need to show off in front of the legal spouse? We were all women, and I knew exactly what kind of thoughts Christine had. I stopped her and asked, aren't you an intern? How come you're now doing an assistant's job? Christine answered without changing her expression, yes, that's right. Mr. Golden currently doesn't have an assistant, so I'm temporarily filling in. Is that so? Does that mean you'll become his personal secretary once you're permanent? I raised an eyebrow as I looked at her. I don't know who gave you the audacity to involve yourself in the boss's matters as a newcomer to the company, but if I were the boss, I wouldn't keep an employee like you for another second. I didn't come to the office with any ulterior motives today. I mainly wanted to meet this sweet sauce. However, she turned out to be quite disappointing. It wasn't just her appearance that differed from what I had seen on social media. Her tactics were quite immature. I had come to terms with everything last night. Nearly a year of this widowed-style marriage had left me physically and mentally drained, and this situation was the final straw. Upon hearing my words, Christine turned to me and asked, I don't quite understand, this is our first meeting, but I can't shake the feeling that you were targeting me from the moment you entered. Are you joking with me? Am I supposed to target a newcomer with no issues, or do you think I've got nothing better to do? I paused for a moment and added, to be blunt, I feel like it's a waste of time to even say another word to you. Christine was a bit slow in her response, unable to keep up with my pace. I carefully examined the woman before me. She had a slightly plump figure and a baby-like face, the type that embraced a cute and adorable style. But I knew Darnell's aesthetic preference had always leaned towards mature or strong women. I was curious about what tactics she had used to make Darnell, who was typically aloof and self-assured, dance to her tune. Seeing the atmosphere in the room become tense, Darnell furrowed his brows and said, if you want to argue, take it outside. Hearing his words, I let out a chuckle. Not only would you take her side if we argued, but you'd even favor her if we got physical, right? Am I wrong? Darnell stared at me in disbelief, and even Christine displayed a similar expression. However, there was a noticeable difference between the two. Christine's expression had a hint of smugness. According to her perspective, she probably hoped we would argue and perhaps even divorce, so she could openly step into the picture. Darnell was a smart man. He could understand Christine's intentions. He came out to mediate the situation. It's enough. If you have something to discuss, do it at home. Don't create a scene here. Darnell, are you saying I'm being unreasonable? I had come to the office today to cause trouble, and this issue was not going to be resolved so easily. She's just an intern at the company. Is she worth your protection, or is she something special to you? As soon as I posed this question, I noticed Christine's eyes light up momentarily. She hoped to receive Darnell's confirmation. She was genuinely in love with Darnell, and of course she longed for his acknowledgement. I knew it was a trap I had set, and Darnell had no choice but to step into it. Facing the questioning looks of two women, Darnell felt a bit uneasy. Are you accusing me of having dirty thoughts, or is it the actions you've taken that are vile? It has already come to this point. Are you still pretending to be a morally upright person in front of me? Massive monthly bank transfers, using overtime as an excuse, always deceiving me to find time to be with another woman. When you were having an affair, didn't you find yourself disgusting? I stared at him with disdain, sweeping my eyes over both of them. Suddenly feel like you two make a perfect couple. The saying birds of a feather flock together seems to suit you both forever. I was well aware of the consequences my words would trigger. Simply remove the last piece of cover that hid their shame. As soon as this was revealed, the expressions on their faces were as unpleasant as one would expect. But I could always sense a trace of satisfaction in Christine's eyes. You looked at my phone. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, who would dare to believe that the person they've loved and trusted for so many years has betrayed them, pretending to be busy with work every day, and making me feel morally guilty? Darnell, I never thought your tactics to deal with me would be so disgusting. If I hadn't discovered these things, I would have felt even more heartache for Darnell. At the same time, I would have blamed myself for whether I brought more pressure upon him with my actions. The actual truth was completely different from what I had expected. It was like a hot slap to my face. Since we've already talked, there's no need to continue. You've been together for so many years, and I never thought it would end like this. You now have two choices in front of you. Point one is to choose me, and the other is to choose her. I spoke slowly. If you choose me, you'll have to dismiss this woman and guarantee that such a thing won't happen again. If you choose her, we will divorce, and you'll have to give me 80% of your assets. Considering you're the one at fault, this is compensation. After I finished speaking, I leaned back on the sofa, crossed my arms, raised an eyebrow, and looked at them. I once again handed the decision to Darnell. Even though I made it sound nice, if he chose me, it would be our second chance to start over, but once unfaithful, forever untrusted. Christine had disgusted me for so long it was time for me to give her a gift. Darnell stood in place and didn't speak for a long time. Christine, on the other hand, grew anxious and approached him, tugging at his sleeve. Darnell, what are you afraid of? Didn't you promise me earlier that you would find an opportunity to divorce and be with me? Darnell still didn't say anything, but the furrow between his eyebrows deepened. I understood him, was weighing the pros and cons. After all, the choice between us was not something that would leave no trace after so many years of being together. But Christine had brought a sense of novelty to him, which was why he, such a cold and indifferent person, had chosen to engage in this disgraceful affair. I just don't understand why you are holding on to a man who no longer loves you, making both of you feel awkward. Darnell already told me earlier that he doesn't love you anymore, stays with you out of guilt and responsibility. Since we've already discussed it, there's nothing more to hide. We genuinely love each other. Christine suddenly grabbed Darnell's wrist and declared her sovereignty in front of me. Even though I had given up on this relationship, her words still felt like a stab in my chest. Darnell had already talked about our frigid marriage to her, which probably prompted her to repeatedly challenge my bottom line. She was just entering the workforce and didn't understand that love and commitments were fleeting, and a man's love for you only counted when he loved you. Although I felt uncomfortable, I continued to smile more brightly. Are what she just said true? The time has come, tell me your choice. Christine raised her head proudly, appearing to welcome her victory, but in the next moment, Darnell's words poured cold water on her. I choose you. I didn't handle things well before, and I won't make the same mistakes in the future. For the sake of the many years we've spent together, give me a chance to make amends. Christine looked at him with disbelief. What do you mean by that? What about the things you promised me before? Have you forgotten? Darnell, I love you so much. How can you bear to hurt me so deeply? I'll consider your previous words unsaid. Say it again. You choose me. Christine's emotions were getting out of control, making her seem like a madwoman. Darnell pursed his lips and pulled his arm out of her grasp. I told you from the beginning that I could never divorce. Go to the finance department later to get the rest of your salary, and I'll provide you with an additional month of compensation. This is where it ends. Between us. Deceiver, you're such a big deceiver. You slept with me for so long, said so many words of love. Were they all lies? Do you have no conscience? Christine's emotions instantly collapsed, and she began shouting and pulling at Darnell like a madwoman. Her eyes were filled with tears, and she spoke quietly, quite a contrast from the arrogant attitude she had when she first entered. I sat on the sofa, changed to a more leisurely posture, and watched the drama unfold. Darnell was a businessman, and choosing the path of least resistance was always his first choice. If he truly didn't choose me, I could easily expose his affair and deal a fatal blow to the company that was in an upward trend. Moreover, I could sue him as the one at fault. Even though 80% of the asset split wasn't very realistic, I could at least get 60%. In the face of self-interest, all promises of love were worthless. The security guards quickly removed the frenzied Christine from the office, and Darnell fired her immediately. Among the employees of this company, there were always a few clever ones who could see through the relationship between Christine and Darnell. Besides, this entire change happened after my arrival. Although everyone tacitly understood what was going on, no one would willingly bring up this topic. I came to the company today with the aim of resolving the issue with Christine. Since the task was completed, I had no reason to stay. Just as I was about to turn around and leave, Darnell suddenly called out to me, Anna, will you give me a second chance? His face showed a pleading expression I had never seen before. In that moment, the once confident Darnell completely vanished from my heart. What do you think? I didn't give a direct answer, just countered with a question. He couldn't come up with a response, and I had no intention of listening to one. Back at home, I quickly hired a moving company and contacted a professional lawyer to file for divorce. I blocked all the ways Darnell could reach me. I booked a flight ticket for a getaway trip. Ever since I married him, I had been living the life of a housewife, and it had been a long time since I had seen the sea. I had a great time outside for more than half a year. When I returned, my divorce proceedings with Darnell were already completed. The infidelity within the marriage was exposed, causing a fatal blow to the company, and even Darnell himself was struggling. However, I wasn't the one responsible for it was Christine, the woman who once loved Darnell deeply and now hated him just as much. The depth of her current hatred was directly proportional to her past love for him. Everything that happened could only be described as a case of reaping what one sows. Today's story is over. Thank you all for listening.